these contract situations are indeed just a part of the process, and they all happen in due time. They all happen when they're supposed to, and both sides are very happy. Certainly, I'm very happy. I want to play my entire career here, and I'm just taking it one step at a time, 1 year at a time, one opportunity at a time. But this allows me to be around here for a bit longer, and I'll be here as long as they'll have me.
Okay, so Drew say he'll be here as long as they would have him. Looks like the Saints have made a decision to have him throughout the 2017 season. Is this the end season for the New Orleans Saints and Drew Brees' marriage, Professor, in 2017?
Oh, no, I definitely wouldn't say that. It just depends upon his health and how he plays. And if I was a betting man, I'd root on Drew, because with the status of their quarterback positions now, there's still no heir apparent. Luke McCowan is not there, and so unless the Saints are planning in 2017 to draft a quarterback with Gary Grayson being cut, no. If Drew Brees is still playing at top level, at that time he will end the 2017 season at 39, and he'll be going on 40. So the chances are more likely that it could be, because I don't know if the Saints will go into 2018 with a 40-year-old quarterback starting. But if Drew, who is taking care of his health, has a line that protects him, it depends upon what's on the roster at the end of December 2017 that would dictate which direction the Saints are going in. And even better yet, will Coach Payton still be the coach of this team, depending on what happens to this team over the next 2 years in terms of wins versus losses? So there are a lot of other variables that dictate or predicate on whether or not Drew Brees will be here past 2017. Right now, I'm going to focus on 16 and 17, and I'm just grateful that he's still with this team, because Drew right now is the most consistent and best thing that the Saints have going for them at this time. So they didn't have a choice, because they had nothing on the bench that was anywhere near being able to keep the Saints in games in terms of quarterbacking.
Yeah, well, and that's the problem right there. They had nothing else in the works, no one else in the works to be able to take over for Drew in case something did happen to Drew. That's a concern of mine still, because if you look at the quarterback play from Luke as well as Gary Grayson, who was cut today by the Saints or waived today by the Saints, and hopefully the Saints will be able to pick him back up and bring him back onto the practice squad. But if you look at what has happened with these guys, you still got to wonder what's going to happen long-term to the New Orleans Saints after 2017. Bringing in a new young quarterback next season only gives you one season as a tutelage behind Drew Brees. So I thought the Saints would have done a lot better at bringing Drew back with an extension for 3 years versus just a 2-year deal. Remy, how do you feel?
I think the deal was the right thing. Because it's like Drew, it doesn't really matter how many years they sign him for, 1, 2, 3, 5, however many. At this particular time, Drew Brees has the Saints by the short and curlies. And there's nothing that we can really do about it. It's just like both of you guys back up there. This is not a Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Montana, Steve Young situation. So he holds all the cards at this particular time. And as Professor said, there's no other player on the team that is really doing anything as consistent as Drew Brees is. And at the same time, and let's be real honest about everything else, the team has to keep him. Why? He's the one that's keeping the home field. So he has the Saints in a very vulnerable position, and he can kind of dictate a lot right now and for the next couple of years, I feel.
Not only that, man, I think dictating is a great word, because if you look at what Drew has been able to accomplish just in being in New Orleans for the past 10 years, you're talking about a guy who has passed for over 48,000 yards just in 10 years. Wow. He has over 60,000 yards for his career, and it's no telling what he can possibly do the next couple of years. And remember last year, Drew was out one game for that Carolina game, right?
It's a 15-game season. Yeah.
Right, and he still threw for 4,800 yards, and we had a receiving core which was pretty suspect, right, Professor?
Yeah, Brandon Cooks was your most stable, and Willie Snead came in that really helped out in the stats. So, I mean, he had all the chips on his side. He had a whole bunch of other teams that would have taken him and paid him. So, I'm always for the players to get their finances because the amount of money they're paying Drew and other players are making are no comparison to the profits from TV revenue concessions that these owners are making. So, paying him what he got, he deserved it. He's proven it. He's done it for, been 10 years. Even was doing it towards the end of his career in San Diego. So, all the chips were in his favor. And so I can't blame the man for his bargaining power and being able to get the contract. I think the Saints were able to save some money in the deal. And I think that they, he's still going to walk away with, even if he leaves the Saints, $74 million. He just made over $100 for the past contract, and what he made over before that. So he's made close to $200 million for the Saints before taxes. So this man should be set for the rest of his life, and I think he deserves it. If you ever read Drew's book, that book is very inspirational of the things he had to overcome. And so I'm very happy that, things have worked out for Drew. It's not Drew's fault that the Saints have blundered on their draft picks and free agencies that they signed. That's not Drew's fault.
That's not.
Yeah, man. And we look at what happened with Gary Grayson. You talk about Grayson and Tull. That year was their number 3 and number 4 draft choices, respectively, and both of them are not on the team. So the Saints have passed by some pretty good players. They had a chance at Zach Prescott even this year. They didn't choose because he wasn't happy with Grayson's performance last season. Why didn't we pick up another quarterback this season? Knowing the contract situation that Drew was in, why did we not at least try to find some sort of insurance? Because Luke McCown is not the insurance package that we need. He's good and serviceable for probably a game or so like he did with Carolina. But as Coach said, with those McCowns, the gunslinger in them were eventually going to show up. And that's what happened with him. So either way you look at it, I think the Saints, as well as Drew, they came out with this short-term deal. The Brees cap number for 2016 is going to drop down from $30 million down to $17.25 million for this season. And I think that's a lot more manageable for the Saints, especially going into 2017 as well. So kudos, Drew. I'm glad you're still with us. I'm glad we are going to see you around. Also, in Drew's contract, there's a clause of no trade as well as no franchising. So there you go.
Hey, like I said, short and curlies, bro.
Short and curlies. All right. Hey, man, Jahri Evans is back. Jahri is back. How you feel about that, Rem?
Hey, y'all know how I feel about that offensive line. The man was a Pro Bowler while he was here. He has 10 years under his belt. He knows the system. And from the looks of the offensive line through preseason, it can't get any worse. I'm glad he's here. I hope it works out. I'm hoping that it'll do something to open up a couple of holes for Ingram and all my boys in the backfield, and maybe make our team less one-dimensional as it was in the preseason.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it was a smart move. They didn't have the money to pay him because they paying Drew Brees so much that they had to let him go. Seattle tried him out. He didn't work in Seattle. So we picked him back up, probably for less money than we would have had to pay if we had kept him. Play that money game. It worked out this time if he produced.
Yeah, and I kind of feel,
game worked out.
Yeah, I kind of feel for Jahri a little bit. He could have taken a pay cut, but still made several more $millions still being a part of the Saints squad. Now it looks like he signed with the Seahawks at the league's minimum, right? And he also may be at the league's minimum with the Saints, or the Saints could have, sweetened the deal a little bit more for him. We don't know the terms just yet, but it gives the Saints the much needed help at the right guard, which has been unsettling for the Saints, the whole offensive line, right? Evans is 33. A lot of his Pro Bowl-esque type of play was not visible last season. It was due to a little injuries as well. But, I'm glad to have him back. He gives us a little bit more stability. That's what we need, and it's good to see him back. Professor, how do you feel?
Well, based upon what you have, you'd have no choice. So we kind of were speaking about this, me and Frank and me and you, Kyle, before the signing occurred. What you have right now in terms of guard play, you had no choice. It was very fortunate for the Saints that he did not make the Seattle roster. My understanding is that he's in great shape and he's healthier and everything else. My understanding from my research was that he had a hard time picking up the scheme or the system in which Seattle uses in terms of, a run scheme that they primarily focus on out there. And he's used to a passing scheme system that the Saints utilize. So it's just a great fit for him back in New Orleans. I'm glad, hopefully, that whatever, disputes or hurt feelings have been reconciled and having him back as a leadership. And I feel a lot more comfortable with him, being back on the line with Zach Street, Unger. Hopefully Tyron Armstead can get healthy. Now we just have to work on the other guard spot and securing that up. Now, the understanding now is going to be, the question is, Andrus Peat is going to begin to start, people are going to start looking at him as a busted number one, which I think is still a bit too early. Hopefully he can make some strides. He will be definitely needed. It gives them also depth with their line with Pete and Lolito and Clemente and Landon Turner is a rookie. So it's important that the people just don't give up on Andrus Peat the way the Saints have given up on Charles and Gary Grayson, early. So I hope things turn around for Andrus Peat with the Saints. But the notice is going out, and even on the internet, and even with the national broadcasters, Nevermind Broadcasting, they're starting to write him off as a bust, and not necessarily because Evans and Street are still a little long in the tooth, so you don't know how long you're going to have them. It's good for this year. We might get another year out those fellas, but Andrus Peat is definitely have to be in the Saints' future.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to have him with us, as well as we are glad to have with us right now Deuce, Rev, Wyndham. What's going on, Deuce? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the crew.
Hey, not much. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem.
Hey, what's up, Deuce? What's up, Deuce, my man?
Not much. Haven't talked to you in a while. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
Well, good. Well, Deuce, man, I know you have your ideas on the Saints' offensive line. Do you think the signing of Evans brings the stability that I mentioned back to the offensive line?
I think yes and no. For one, I'm happy to have Evans back just for the reason that he had a dead cap number of $5 million this year, and I hate paying people who aren't on the team. It just makes me mad at losing. So I'm happy he's back for that reason. But in terms of stability, I mean, technically the answer is yes, but in reality the answer is still no, because he was let go for a reason and not just a pay cut. His health's declining. His ability to play is declining. And, and it's just an age thing. He's not held up very well past that 30 mark like